Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Super Robot Wars Taisen playthrough. And this one's going to be Super Robot Taisen J. And this one's actually in English this time because some good people translated the game. And so I'll be playing through it as my main playthrough for now. And you may have guessed where I gotten that background from. Also, the background, the image on the corner on the side of the screen, I may get rid of that because, as you can see, the video screen is actually a little bit bigger than the background. So I don't know if I'll keep it there, but it's gonna be there for this first episode at least. So yeah. The main reason why I decided to do this instead of continuing Xenoblade Chronicles X is mainly because the newest Super Robot Wars game, Super Robot Wars OG: The Moon Dwellers, is going to come out in a few months, and I kind of want to get this over and done with by the time that comes out. I know this won't be done by the time that comes out, but I at least wanted to get started on it as soon as possible. So yeah, this is my main walkthrough. From now on, it'll be should be posted on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, with the other Super Robot Wars game, Super Robot Wars Z, being posted on. Well, you can read my description for that. I don't know what I'm gonna do for my side walkthrough. To be honest, that's what I plan on doing for the weekends. The weekends is mainly for, yeah, those random videos that I just happen to have, and any, game that I kind of want to continue but don't have time to continue all the time, I guess. But oh look, mysterious people. So yeah, considering this game actually has readable dialogue for English-speaking viewers, I won't be skipping them. And as you can guess, there's a lot of dialogue, so expect these episodes to be incredibly long just because of the dialogue alone. I was originally thinking of actually having the dialogue bits as separate episodes, but I feel like that would break up the pace too much. So that won't be happening, but in the first few episodes, these probably won't happen, but I expect speed-ups eventually down the line, and perhaps cuts as well. Like me just cutting out entire enemy phases. Because, well, this game doesn't have any SR points or anything like that, like Z2. It's pretty much just complete the objective, and for most of the stages, it's pretty much just whatchamacallit, defeat all the enemies. And sometimes all you have to do is defeat the boss, but that's not the case every single time. But this game does have a lot more secrets than Z2. A lot more secrets that I care about anyway. One secret I won't be going for is Great Zeromer, and that requires you to go through every single route with that has Zeromer exclusive to it, and only deploy Zeromer when it's forced to. So if the game, you can only use Zeromer when the game deploys him, and I don't want to be restricted like that. So I won't be doing that. And this game also has an interesting feature. When you whatchamacallit, well, there's another secret. There's this actually at the beginning there. You saw me pick a unit for Toya here. You can choose between Toya and some other person. I forget her name. They won't. The stories are a little bit different between those two, but it isn't the overall story is pretty much the same, so you're not missing any. This playthrough can pretty much, if you're playing as the what is it, the other protagonist, I forget her name, this playthrough will work for that for the most part, except for the first stage or two. So yeah, that's that. Is there anything else I need to mention? Oh yeah, the 3 units. There are 3 units you can pick from. You can pick from the Grantide, which is a super robot, and from one sort of mix and one that's just a complete real robot. And there is another super robot, but you can only pick him once you complete the game 3 times with the 3 different robots at the beginning of the game. And I don't believe it matters who you complete them, which protagonist you complete them with. But yeah. And this game is good enough for multiple playthroughs. You'll be spending a lot of time with it if you want to play as the Vorlant, which is you'll actually see that unit throughout the I believe near the end of the game in the enemy hands, but the one you have is slightly different color than those. I think on my free time I probably will plan on continuing playing through this game on with this save file on my own free time once I'm done with it. So, yeah, this might be the first time somebody's actually been looking at a Super Robot Wars game, because this one is actually in English, and somebody may have come across this by looking through my channel videos. So if you don't know what Super Robot Wars is, or Super Robot Taisen I should say, Taisen means war, so that's why I call it Super Robot Wars sometimes, is that it's essentially a giant crossover between mech animes, mech comics, mech mangas, whatever. Usually, most of the time, actually always, they're from Japanese culture, and they're not always mechs. This Super Wars has the brain powered, which I don't believe they're mechs essentially, but they don't look like, they're not technically mechanical, but yeah, they're mechs. And Tekkaman, which isn't it's a newer Tekkaman. It isn't like the original Tekkaman, but it has Tekkaman, and Tekkaman himself isn't a robot. He's some like weird organic armor type of thing, but Pegasus is, so yeah. But so they're not always robots, but for the most time, Super Wars, they're always robots. And your favorites, a lot of people's favorite series are combined here, like Gundam Seeds in this game, Mazinger Z, Great Mazinger, and this isn't a crossover where like they're just all together. Like it isn't some like other crossover stuff where it's like how should I say, where it's like in between their story, or the story doesn't have an effect on like the story of where they're from. What, for the most part, it depends from game to game. For the most part, each series, it acts like it's almost the beginning of each series, or the series hasn't finished yet. So some events can play out a little bit differently, and if you meet certain conditions, perhaps some people that would have died originally may not die. So yeah, so there's gonna be quite a few things quite a few secrets we're gonna go for, and when a requirement, or when we need to do something to obtain a particular secret, I will mention it in that episode, or I'll try to anyway. I'm sorry if I go through the dialogue a little bit too fast, but I'm going through it as I, read it. So, I kind of read a little bit faster than most people. But I kind of do want to get a move on, because these episodes are going long enough as they are, and I don't need them going on for too long. So I'm sorry if I'm going a bit too fast for you, but it's just how it is. I did mention that the reason I'm doing this is because the newest one is coming out soon. What I didn't mention is that one is also going to be in English, probably broken English, but in English. And Toya or and the other protagonist are going to be in this game. How this game are going to be in that game. How it works, the Super Robot Wars OG games, is that they bring in all the original characters made for a particular game. For most Super Robot Wars games, almost all of them now, there's an original robot created specifically for that game, and Toya and the Grand Teed and all the other mechs you could have picked at the beginning are all original mechs, original characters created for this game, and they're coming up in the newest Super Robot Wars game, and I'm quite excited for that one. I think I will record that one. I don't know. If I do record it, it's not going to go up on the channel until at least Z or this game is over. But like I said, that one's in English, and Toya is going to be in that one. So I kind of want to, before I played that one for the channel, I kind of wanted to play the game where Toya was at least in. But in Super Robot Wars OG games, how they usually do it is that there's two different playable characters. Both of their characters are incorporated into the story in the OG games. Because the two different playable original playable characters here between Toya, I forget the other person's name because I haven't played as her. What is it? Yeah, I don't remember. But they're both in the story in the OG game, as in they both exist. But if you pick one or the other in J, it's as if the other one didn't exist. So, sorry if that was a bit confusing, but it's the only way I could have explained it. So yeah, Sayaka here, her unit is a healing type unit, so it's more of a support unit than anything. He can do attacks, but isn't very strong. So, and it doesn't heal for much, so I usually get rid of it as soon as possible, because I've never had that much of an issue with healing, and I believe if you really needed to heal, you could just put stages from now on will have a battleship we'll have battleships, and you can heal units by putting them in there. So if I recall, you should be able to. Anyway, I forget if that was a feature in this game or not, but it's in most Super Robot Wars games, so yeah. One thing I do like, though, is the Grand Teed's theme. I think the theme's the same for the first... No, actually, it might be different. I don't remember if the themes are the same for each unit. Oh, and if you're wondering, the themes you're hearing for each robot are different and specific to that series or even unit. And if they're, you know, an original character for the game, then it's original. But if they're from a particular series, then they have their series. Usually, it's the main theme song. If they have a main theme song, it's usually you know, how do you call it? What's the term for it? There's a particular term that I don't recall right now. What is it? It's without the lyrics, but I forget what you call that. Wait, what you call a version of a song without the lyrics? Oh well. But obviously, since it's a Game Boy Advance game, there's no lyrics. But the Grand Teed is a powerful unit. Let me tell you that right now. I like the Grand Teed. Is one of my. I've never actually. I've only done playthroughs with the Grand Teed. I've never bothered. Like, once I finished a playthrough, I tried starting several others, but I never ended up finishing them. So, when a pilot levels up, they get something called pilot points. And in the settings, you can change it so you can apply it when they level up, or you can apply it after stage. I believe that's how it works. I usually just do it after the stage. And what I usually put it all into is into evade. For what you really want to do is for super robots, you want to put it into like attack or whatever. But I just like evasion. I like to dodge everything, and I believe at one place or at the guaranteed was he could not get hit, and he was a powerhouse. I think not getting hit is more important than doing damage, to be honest, because if you don't get hit, you don't die. But like ideally you want to go for defense or like attack or something for super robots, and for real robots is where you want to go for evasion. But like I said, I like to dodge everything with super robots, and usually it's a 50% chance with super robots, so unfortunately it's not the best. But you know, if you raise their evasion high enough, but But that's just for pilots. You can also upgrade a mech stats with the money you gained from each stage for defeating units. So it's in your best interest to defeat as many units as possible, simply for money purposes. And you can raise your health, defense, energy, mobility, and is accuracy one? I forget if accuracy is one, but if it is, it is. And then damage. In this game, they're in two different menus, but in most of the current games, they're all the upgrades are in the same menu. It depends on the. Originally, how I usually do it was I would just upgrade one unit fully at a time, but that leads to a lot more not so great situations. So I would recommend try to upgrading your favorite units equally. And try to pay attention to which routes you pick, because you don't want to go through a route where your units aren't upgraded. But since you're always going to have Toya, you're probably going to want him to be and his unit to be the most upgraded out of your entire team, since you'll always have him. No, I don't believe there is anything. There's nothing special about this stage in particular. It's your basic stage getting you into the game. And at the beginning, Toya here is kind of very reluctant to do anything, and kind of understandable. He's kind of like Kira in a way. Oh no, it's Mecha Beast. Oh my god. But as I was saying, yeah, this stage isn't difficult at all. You'll have no trouble with this as far as I'm aware, unless you just, like, I don't know, send a unit out on its own. Because guaranteed sure as hell. And then when the Zinger can't dodge, neither can, was it Aphrodite? I don't know how to pronounce that. Aphrodite? And yeah, that's why I don't usually even have repair units, because they repair very little. The supporting units that I prefer would be the ones that recover energy, because they usually recover all your energy. That's another thing I need to mention. Every single move, there's 3 possible things. Well, a unit's attack can consume up to 3 different things. Well, 2 different things. It can either consume energy or ammo. I don't believe in this game there are any attacks that consume both. In some Super Robot Wars games there is, but the only one I countered that was in Z3. So I don't believe there is any moves in this game that use both, or they use none. If they don't use any energy, then you can just use them however how much you want. I believe if a unit can fly, and if you choose to make them fly, they use some energy each turn. It's not a considerable amount, but it's something to keep in mind, I guess, when you're low on energy. I think that's the case. In some Super Robot Wars games, that is the case. Let's see. And, yeah, so some moves don't use anything, some moves use energy, some moves uses ammo. That's pretty much all you want to to know about this game. Oh, in terms of attacks. And, oh yeah, each attack has its own specific accuracy. Some attacks are more accurate than others, and some attacks have more of a critical hit chance than others. So it's really, you know, what you kind of want to do. It's up to you to decide what's the best thing to do. Usually I just pick up. I usually just pick the highest damaging attack. But if you really want to be like, you know, optimal, you would probably think about what attack would be the best for each situation. Oh, you also have things called ability. Oh, let's call them magic. They're not really magic. They're called spirits. You have these things called spirits, and they have different effects. They can go from making you only take 10 damage from an attack, reduce damage for a turn, dodge an attack, heal another unit for a certain amount of HP, heal yourself, increase your damage, a bunch of different little things they can do. You can either choose to use them all from the get-go, and, you know, just use them throughout. The best thing you really should do would be to conserve them until you really need them, usually for a boss or something like that. At the beginning, that's not really that big of an issue if you don't conserve your spirit points, mostly because you don't have that many spirits to use. But as you move on into the game, you're gonna want to conserve them for moments when you're really gonna need them. And I believe that's all of the main mechanics covered. Movement, it's kind of obvious there. There are actually, I think there's 4 different movement tiles, I'll call them. Not movement, not movement tiles, movement ratings. One for the sea, one for land, well, one for underwater, one for land, one for space, and one for flying. Now, each units have different ratings in each one. The higher the rating, I believe they're by letters, so with S being the highest one. I forget it. Since I play so many Super Wars games, I forget if, like, the earlier ones had S ranks, but I'm fairly certain they did. So S rank, well, yeah, the higher the rating, the higher it works. If they have a rating less than A, they have some, their movement gets cut by each letter lower than A. By each letter, yeah, lower than A. By that I mean if you have a B, your movement gets cut by 1 in that sort of terrain. But if you have an S, you get 1 more movement. It's usually how it works. So, yeah, I believe in some games there's like an ideal sort of terrain. Oh yeah, also certain like tiles on the map have different effects. Like some will actually like give you increased accuracy and evade. I don't usually pay too much attention to those, but they are something to keep in mind, especially if you're kind of in a really bad situation and you're not one to use, you know, quick saves to quick save your way out of situations. And I won't be using quick saves, or well, I will be using them if I'm really in a sort of pickle and I don't want to start all over again. But I won't be using save states and be like, you know, resetting after every single attack to make sure I hit, or dodge. So I won't be doing that. But quick saving can be a curse as well, because if you save in the middle of a stage and you're in a bad spot, you might be stuck in that bad spot without being able to save yourself. So it's a blessing and a curse. But you can always, you know, load from the beginning of the stage. So this game is very forgiving in terms of restarting. And I believe if you do fail a stage, you keep all the money you earned from that stage, but you have to do it all over again. In this game, there's no real penalty for that occurring, I believe. Yeah, I don't think so. So like if you're really stuck, you'll be able to buff your units eventually to get through. But as I said, I don't believe there's a penalty. I forget. I'm pretty sure this game allows you to keep your money and redo the stage. It might just give you a game over though. I don't recall. But if it does let you do the stage over again, then you don't lose anything. I don't remember, so don't like rely on that. But I believe that's how it works. In some of the Super War games, that's how it does work. In Z, I know it works that way. But the problem is that you lose your chance of getting the SR point for that stage. Even if you lost before, you could even obtain it. Before it even was a thing. So yeah. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, I don't recall if that feature is in this particular game. I don't know. I'm a person that talks by moving my hands, and I'm kind of doing that all the time here. When I'm talking, and you can't see me. So, that's a thing. Yeah, this was talking about the pilot training. I usually just do evade just to do it. You can pick whatever stat you really want, but I recommend sticking with one stat and just always doing with that stat, because if you try to distribute them evenly, they're not really going to buff a stat they're not really going to buff you up that much, so that's why I would recommend just putting them into a single stat for each pilot. Oh yeah, like I said, there's upgrade, and there's also modules you can equip. I forget what those do. I think they can raise your stats, and so do parts. Some parts are consumable, like they'll heal all your HP or all your energy, but only once. But parts can be really useful. Some can give you a barrier. I forget if the barriers are considered modules in this game. In future games, they're just combined into parts, I believe. And unit variants. Some units have different variants, like one of the Gundams and the Aced Valus units from whatchamacallit, the Aced Valus units from Disco. But anyway, that's the end of the episode. So I'll see you guys again next time, whenever that is. Bye.